get one of those take.
We do need to order one of those. We're going to order one of those because that would just be fun. We'll just put you in charge of that, Cody.
Ordering one? All right.
All right, we're doing that.
What
hey,
is it called anyway? Take
one? It's the middle of the day, which is odd for us because normally we're pretty early in the morning, folks. But hey, we're here at the Big Fat Podcast. Thank you guys for coming out. Mr. Harvey Singh.
Hello.
My man. I have been looking forward to talking to you.
Oh, this is exciting. We're glad to be down here, too. We've been watching you guys as well, so this is exciting. Thank
right
you.
on.
Yeah.
Right on. You are a guy with many talents, and you just have a lot going on. We're like, you know what? That guy would just be an interesting guy to meet and talk to and pick his brain a little bit, and how does this guy see life? And we also have Mr. Taj Singh.
Hi.
How you doing, my man?
Good.
You got to chomp on a little bit of a BFL breakfast burrito right there.
What did you think?
Yep. I loved it. It was really good.
Well, now you're my best friend. Well, thank you. That's awesome. And you know what you're talking about, man. I know you're eating good food, so you know what you're talking about. You are not slumming it, man. You are eating good. I've been to Perch, so let's talk about Perch.
Let's do it.
Yeah, Harvey, how'd you get into Perch? Where did that come from? What's your background? Look, you know what? Just go on a rant. Tell us who you are and what you do, my man.
Yeah, little crazy story, I guess, just even ending up out in Montana. I originally grew up in California. And
what part of California?
So San Fernando Valley, basically Southern California,
okay.
Los Angeles County. You know, I was born in Riverside, California.
Right on.
I've been there. I worked in Riverside for
really?
a while. Yep.
Yeah.
I used to drive truck through there all the time.
No way. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that was back in the day. That was the 80s, obviously. And I was there for about 11 years. Then we moved to Santa Clarita, Canyon Country more specifically, which is kind of the Santa Clarita Valley. And then from there, probably when I was just going into high school, we moved to Northridge, right in the San Fernando Valley, and kind of my family still has a home out that way and stuff, so we go back quite often. But I kind of grew up not very good student, and didn't really care much for school, and had a really weird. Riverside was crazy. It was predominantly white, so like I was brown, and obviously still am brown, and it was kind of rough. I got picked on a lot. It was really just weird. So those first few years were really odd, and my parents, came here from India, and they didn't speak English. So like we grew up learning English at school and Indian at home.
So do you speak Indian?
Yeah, I'm fluent Punjabi. Yeah, which is north part of India. So with a Sikh background.
Cook some good Indian food. Oh, that is my favorite.
April's telling us all the time we're going to India. She has a thing.
India's amazing.
I want to go so bad.
It's amazing.
The food, the culture.
Yeah, he wants to go. He's barely got his passport at the worst time of time to have a passport.
Right.
I'm like, cool, you got your passport. No, we can't go anywhere.
My mom just signed my passport when every country closed down.
Oh, that's some timing, man.
Yeah, a little time.
I really want to go to England.
He wants to go to England.
I do too.
He's got a wicked English accent too, huh, Taj? You should just talk the rest of the day in that accent. It'd be hilarious.
Want me to?
Yeah, why don't you try it? Why don't you say?
How about some? I don't know. Ask for some tea.
Why don't you say?
What's your favorite kind of tea?
I don't like tea.
You're not gonna make a very good Englishman.
Cup of tea.
You can't go to England.
Cup of tea, yeah. I always makes fun of me because I have a terrible English accent. Yeah. But all right. So reverting back to.
I'm talking in British accent.
You want to go ahead? You can for the rest of the one. Yeah, you should.
This episode is brought to you by BFL Sauce. That's right, BFL Sauce. It goes great on everything. Let's just take a quick moment and let you know you can go to our website, bigfatlunchbox.com, and you can order BFL Sauce by the bottle. We ship it out to you. And now, if you order over $25 on the website, you just get free shipping. Why? Because we know firsthand shipping is expensive. It's expensive for all of us, okay? But we just try to figure this out to where you can order more affordably to get the sauce you love, to put on the food you love. And those sauce sales directly support the Big Fat Podcast. If you would like to help produce the Big Fat Podcast, there is a spot right there where you can contribute to become a producer of the Big Fat Podcast. Check that out on the website, bigfatlunchbox.com. All right, let's get back into this.
So grew up, moved around with the family, obviously ended up in Santa Clarita and then the San Fernando Valley. And I just, just never really applied myself to anything, got through. I just really always kind of, grew up kind of a little angry too, because I was always getting messed with. So I really didn't like people. I was very super shy. And, went through high school. Once I was barely made it through high school, I was like, I'm not going to college, so I just...
Your parents didn't push you?
Oh,
I find
they
that
tried.
in that culture, doctor, attorney,
I'm the black sheep
Very
of the family,
driven.
big time.
Yeah.
So I was like, nope. And, everybody else, like my sister's a doctor, my other sister's a nurse.
Yeah,
and,
the culture, yeah.
So, I just didn't, and so just... grew up with this just negative kind of a outlook because I didn't really care much for people and I just stuck to myself. And then, gosh, I was when I graduated 18, my first girlfriend was a junior. She was a year younger, and we ended up being together for 9.5 years. And she ended up going to school for visual arts, and she was she did a lot of watercolors and oil paintings and things like that. And I was off playing the blues and having a good time, you know what I mean? I really just didn't know where I was going and didn't care. I was fine. I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I probably could still be doing that if I didn't know better, When I was 26, she just kind of was like, you're over here and I'm over here. And I was kind of I just thought I was going to marry this girl, on our 10-year anniversary, which was coming really close. And she just was like, I'm just not happy. And then I was just like, yeah, I get it. I understood, at the same time. But then I was like, man, it was like the rug was pulled out from underneath me all of a sudden, I didn't know who. I was like, oh my gosh, who am I? Where am I going? Don't do that, sweetheart. So it was really a weird, odd time. And ended up meeting an Indian gal a few months after that, oddly enough. And she turned me on to The Secret, that documentary called The Secret.
Yeah.
So I was in a really, really dark place at the time because I was like, what am I doing?
Your whole identity.
Yeah. I was gone, and my brother was working for a roofing company that traveled around. We were in Florida at the time, and he's like, just come out here and, clear your head and just come work with us for a little while. And I did that. Kind of was my little dipping my toe into the roofing world. Yeah. And that's where she showed me the documentary, and I was just blown away by it. And I was just like, wait, you don't have to be a jerk to have money, and you can do good things. I have a really weird relationship with money because my dad got into a lot of stuff with family and really ripped, a lot of family apart. My mom's side, he helped a lot of them out and things like that. And I saw a lot what he went through, and I just always have never really had respect for money as a thing, hold it up high, So I kind of just started to develop this picture of myself that I just have money all the time and I just do good things with it, and I just try to do different things with it. I mean,
because of what you learned from The Secret, you just started to be like, here, look, I'm just going to make this my reality.
Yep. I was just this is my reality.
Manifesting
it.
Yeah.
And, the first thing that I did was because I didn't know where to start. I was like, they even ask you in The Secret, they're like, when you ask somebody if they could have anything they want, what they really want, they can't answer you because they don't know, because they don't believe they can have it. So people don't think that way. It would just hit me so hard to see people just going through the same life all the way through and not ever stepping away from it or feeling like there's something bigger you can do. And it just kind of took over me. And I there's a guy in the documentary that wrote this Chicken Soup of the Soul books.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Canfield, and he was the one that struck me kind of the most. And he had this $1 bill that he put out, 5 zeros on. He said, I was like, I'm making $100,000 in a year, and so that was what I did. I was just like, I made $100,000 this year. It was, gosh, this was by this time it was July of 2007, June or July, and right around the same time when I just decided I was going to do it. It was probably a couple months actually before that, because I still went back to my construction job in California after I learned this, and I just started getting raises. I would walk around, and I used to be the guy that would show up late and then hide in the attic and sleep because I was hungover from Sunday because I was playing the blues. Just the worst employee ever.
Yeah.
And I just changed how I was. I just started walking differently, and I just like started building this picture of what a person that has $100,000 looks like, and that's what they talk about. And I just started envisioning myself and affirmations and talking to myself in the mirror. I just told myself all this stuff, and then I just like go to work and take care of stuff, and they were just giving me raises. I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah, I'm not making $100,000 a year, but look, I just got like 2 raises in 2 months, and they want to like make me an assistant foreman and all this crazy stuff. I'm like, this is weird, but it's not what I was going for. So I was just kind of just keep focusing.
But just that perspective change and how I walked and how I talked, and everything changed because I just believed I was different,
And then it wasn't maybe a couple months after that my brother was like, hey, I'm in Glass, and he always used to call me, I'm over here, and I'm working, I made this much. I'm like, I don't care, I really don't care.
Right.
And this time it was just like, bing, and he's like, he was in Glasgow, Montana, of all places, and he's like, I just made $10,000 today selling roofs. I'm like, okay. And I just, Mom, can I borrow your truck? And just got in the truck and drove up to Glasgow, Montana, and I started on 7/7/7. It was July 7th, 2007. And ended up, the first couple times talking to people. And I'm shy, super shy. And I'm going to go knock on, in all the things I already have going on in my head. I'm a brown guy that's going to Glasgow, Montana, and I'm going to go knock on doors and sell roofs. I'm like, but I would just disregard it. And I was like, no, people feel like they know me. They just like me. They don't know why. I just had all these things. I'm just driving through the night. And when I got there, I just started to kind of slowly start knocking doors and kind of opened up a little bit more, and ended up doing it was from July till I think then it was a storm that hit in September, a really late storm that hit in Fargo that same year, September 25th. And so I was kind of, in Glasgow for like 2.5 months or whatever that was till that point. And I'm like, okay, I made $36,000. I was making $25,000 a year, and I made $36,000 in like 2 months, And I'm like, holy cow.
Wow.
And then I'm like, but I still haven't hit my thing. And then it hailed in Fargo, and boom, I was in Fargo the next day. And we ended up doing, it was crazy part is I ended up doing like 700 something thousand in sales in a month and a half. And it was so late in the year that we couldn't actually fix the roofs because it was too cold. So me and my brother were getting paid an extra $300 to $500 on every house to go tarp the roof to get it through the winter. And we generated all these sales. Now I didn't get a check for $100,000, but right. I was at a 10% commission. So I produced $1 million, which is $100,000 in commission. And all the work was going to get done the next year. But I was like, oh, my God, like, this is crazy.
That's awesome.
It just set me off on all these. Now I'm going to do this,
But it shows you that possibility.
Yeah.
And once you break through that.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's what I think it is, because there's a lot of things that you can do when you decide, okay, you want to say something, baby? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I can't talk in my British accent if you keep talking.
I'll give you a chance to talk here. You're coming up. This is all pre-Taj, so 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 I just set off on doing that, and it just started to be where I was working March through November-ish, and I would work wherever it stormed. I'd be in Bismarck, I'd be in wherever I needed to be. I'd be in Billings. I got to Billings in 2010 when the tornado hit. And
I was up on the High Line. I was up working track, and I remember that was a big one.
That was a big one.
That was a big one. I missed it, but I heard about it.
It was, and it was, it was kind of where I ended up here, in Billings, and stayed. I met Taj's mom, and that kind of was a really, really interesting relationship after a while, and so kind of ended up, I was working for this other guy, this other company around town in Bismarck and this and that. And then maybe it was 2012. So I basically was making $100,000 a year selling it. And that was my intention to do that. But that's all I did. So every year I still did the same thing, because I didn't reset my plans.
Right.
It wasn't like, okay, I hit $100,000 a year, I'm doing this. I was like, woohoo, I was just making great money, and I was taking the winners, and I was traveling, and I was doing something. And then, it took a while. It really took till Taj came into the picture that I was like, what am I doing? I'm okay. I accomplished this big thing, and now I'm just floating. Now what? And it just hit me, because he was like, it was a pretty, really, really rough thing. Taj's mom and I weren't together while she was, pregnant. It got really bad with just substance abuse and stuff like that, that she couldn't overcome, So I ended up, by the time he was 10 months, almost a year old, to where like we weren't trading him off anymore. At first it was really rough because there was a lot of bad things going down, and I was having to trade my kid off, you know what I mean? And knowing that he was going into situations that I was like, no.
Right.
And, it's rough for a single dad, but in this case I was, raising him pretty much the whole time. And then it got to the point where I couldn't let him go home, you know what I mean? Because I was like, things need to straighten up. So from that point on, I just been raising him, you know what I mean? And it's just been like, and that's where I made the new reset. And I was like, it was really funny because I started, he was born in March, and then by October, November of 2013, I had my own company. The other guy that I was working for he was going through a divorce at the time, so he started kind of pinching me on commissions and stuff. And then I've got my little kid here, and it was like I was sitting here, and I'm like, holy cow, how did I get to this spot where I'm just like in a grim situation again, and everything's dark again, you know what I mean? And I just remember the light going back on. I'm like, dude, you didn't do anything to... you're rolling with the punches in a way. Like, we get up in the morning and we're like, oh, this is my situation. This is who I am. This is how I am. And this
things
is
are
what's
happening
going on.
to me.
So you perpetuate them. Exactly. And so I had to have that reset to where I was like, no, and I remember even having this conversation with his mom. We were just going at it. And I was like, you're going to see my name all over this town. I was like really like pissed, but like determined. And I remember just saying that. And then, I just started the company and just started taking one job on, and my first job was a vinyl siding job, and I was like, I'm gonna make this much, I'm gonna make $2 million this year, I'm gonna do it myself, and I just just made up a thing, and and then I had these siding jobs were coming up, and YouTubed how to do siding. Like, who does that? You have to be determined to do something to where like I sold my dirt bike, you know what I mean, and got $3,500 for this material on this job because it was a customer's job that I had. Wait pending, and I told him, hey, I don't work for this guy anymore. It was a $10,000 siding job, and my commission was going to be $1,000. And I'm like, but if you want me to do it, I'll do it, And he's like, I don't even know who this guy is. Yeah, you do the job, you know what I mean? So I sold my dirt bike, bought the material, and ended up doing the job. I hired a buddy of mine to help me with like the very, very top gable ends to hold the ladder like the last couple of days, and paid him $500, and ended up, making a $6,000 profit. And I was like, holy cow, like this is what I've been doing for this guy, and then I just did another one, and then it went into 2014, and then it was, hey, can you do my roof? I'm like, I can't do roofs, but I knew all the roofers. So I, from the other company, and they're like, yeah, and I, grew up speaking Spanish too, because I grew up in a lot of weird neighborhoods where there's a lot of, I was always mistaken in LA for Mexican. So like I got along with a lot of Mexicans and learned how to speak Spanish. So I connected with the roofers, and they started roofing houses for me and stuff. And it was just like,
oh, that's
and then
perfect deal.
And then it was May of 2014 when we had that really big storm again. And it was just, that was it. It was over. Like I had already talked to enough people, and I lived up in the Heights from ever since that 2010 storm, and made so many connections. And back then, before I had Taj, I used to like go to the bars a lot and hang out, and I was making way more than I needed to make, and I was just buying the rounds.
So networking without networking.
I didn't even know I was networking. And then when they knew I had my own company, everybody hired me, and everybody. And, it was really good and really bad because it set off a lot of people and really got a lot of local people pissed off, like because I wasn't local and this and that and the other. But at the same time, it was like I started immediately giving back because I don't care about money. It was way more than I needed. I was like, me and my kid and I are good. So like, one of my customers was like, hey, kid's on a baseball team. Can you sponsor it? And I ended up sponsoring that. And then like a bunch of the other kids from or parents from the team came up and hired me, and then it was just like, holy cow. And then I was like, well, and I just always started throwing it right back, and just right back into it. And that's kind of what led up to all the different things that we do, sponsoring fighters, sponsoring every kind of sport you can think of and things like that, because a huge part of the secret that you're going to learn in this documentary is that gratitude, and I was so grateful. And here I am with this kid, and he's rolling around with me. We started doing commercials, which went on to blast us up even more, just more and more built this, like, people saw him grow up, and there's some people that talk a little trash, like, you exploit your kid, this and that and the other. It's like, no, like, this is our life. Like, it's not even it's not even contrived. You know what I mean? Like, we just did some ads and we do some things and it gets captured along the way, and it really motivates us and other people around us.
You're doing these experiences together. It's not that it's like I say, like, you're having experiences
the things that we've
together,
done,
sharing things together.
Right, because it's not like you're just sponsoring. I mean, like, we would go to these baseball games. You know, when we sponsor the fights, we're at the front table.
Yeah.
So this kid's going to fights. He's going to dirt bike races, you know, and like, I mean, everything if you can think of. So, like, life is about the experience. It's not about those dollars. And, like, my dad was, you know, didn't have a hobby, didn't have any. He just provided for his family, you know what I mean? And it really beat him down at the end, you know. And
well, when that's your whole focus, what else is there?
Right.
You know, there's there's nothing else.
Right.
And so to have that focus just on money can be very exhausting.
It's horrible. I think it's the worst way to make money is to focus on money. But when you're just focused on the service or what you're doing, the money's always there. Like, it's always there.
Yeah.
It's not like we don't have good times and bad times. The economy and this and that. You know, COVID hasn't been really nice to us, and material supply and all that stuff. But even along the way, we just make sure that we continue to do those experiences and not focus. Because if we focus on the money, then I'll go, well, I better sell this, or I better not do this, or I better stop. And then
you don't enjoy life. You
then
don't
it's like,
enjoy the journey.
That's not fun. There's no integrity in that. You know, the worst thing and there's been, you know, rough times, and I read a lot. You know, the documentary really just opened up all these doors, like, you know, Napoleon Hill and Dale Carnegie, Andrew Carnegie, all these people that have these books, you know. So, like, I always have these resources to go to when I come off track, you know, and you get scared about doing something, you're worried, and then, like, you know, and I learned one thing really, really early on was how much people shy away from or, you know, run away from doing something because they're scared or because of what could go wrong.
That's the biggest thing why people don't do anything is fear.
It's kind of like I find this, and it's as I've gotten older and as we've gotten into this business and things that we do, it's like we actually present our own obstacles. We make our own obstacles. It's letting those things go, getting over it, not worrying about what other people are thinking about you.
Right. And it's also just looking at what's the worst thing that can happen. You know what I mean? That's the one thing I learned out of what's the book, How to Stop Worrying and to Start Living. I think that one's Dale Carnegie. You know, and that's what he talks about. It's like, you're scared of doing something, like, what could go wrong? You, like, really sit down and think about, like, if everything goes to heck, like, what's the worst that can happen?
You know, you're not happy right now, so you're not going to be any worse off than you are right now.
Right.
Like, you're just not.
I think that a lot of people get caught up in, like somebody saying you're exploiting your kid, right? The commercials you have, I think they're awesome with the kids in them. But interestingly enough, my wife and I grew up with being LDS. We both had like 6 kids in our family. It was just, I came from a single mom. But when we got married, we were like, well, what do we want to do? And we wanted to take the backyard, this would be Yellowstone, but experience, have them take the experiences. So we've taken vacations like down to the Alamo, where they take history and make it alive. Or you go to, we've gone all over the United States, but we've gone camping. This last time, which was last year and about killed us, by the way, we had taken the western route. We had got a canvas tent and then camped along the trail as they would come west.
I see. Early pioneers.
Yeah, so like we stopped at Fort Kearny and anyway, all the way from the Mississippi. So they would stop at the Mississippi and look at it, and then we literally would camp as close as you could to the original trail.
Right.
And the kids loved it. To them it's experience. And so they did it on cover wagons. They walked, and so we were driving it. I got exhausted driving it, but 11 days into that trip, I'll tell you what, it was a cool trip.
But you're having those experiences.
But it's those experiences, right. Yeah. They can say, yeah, I know what
right.
What is, they didn't sleep under the wagon. But they had to put up the tent. They had a canvas tent on it.
Yeah, having those experiences as a family with your parents, with your dad. Yeah. There's so many kids nowadays that are growing up with nothing
don't
like
have a
that.
present
Their
parent.
experience is what they see on TikTok or whatever. So having those positive experiences and seeing that positive example, that's powerful.
Yeah,
it's huge,
that's so powerful.
Yeah, just having access, that's what's really golden for us, for him that he doesn't even realize yet is having access to so many different things that, that have grown him, and I'm just like, and I look at it like, if he's not way better than I am, then I didn't do my job as a father. You know what I mean? So like I have to take my. He says I already am better than you. You're getting close. You did beat me in darts, but you did the last one you did. But yeah, you know, I mean, like, if I don't offer those experiences, like that was one thing, you know, that my dad did a lot of stuff, and he knew a lot about business, you know, and he really never shared it with us. He never really, he just went to work and did what he needed to do to make sure we have everything we needed. So like I've always looked at that as like I got to take all the little positive things that from my dad, and then remove all the negative things, you know what I mean, that maybe weren't advancing him along or enriching his life or our lives, that I need to take those on and pay attention to that and make sure that I don't repeat any of that stuff, you know what I mean? And I take the good and pass the good on. And I'm very vocal and very open with Taj about my weaknesses and my faults and all that stuff with that, because like I don't want him to just grow up and be like, well, that's how it is. So like I always, when I maybe say something wrong, or if I deal with a situation wrong, like I'll like go back and talk to him about it, you know what I mean?
It's not just because you said so that here's the reasons why.
Yeah, I mean, there's times where I'll be like, Taj, is you or your dad there? That was really wrong. That was really wrong the way for me to, to deal with that situation. This is how I should have dealt with it, da-da-da-da-da. Because if I just leave it at what it's at and I don't explain myself, or at least kind of make sure he understands, then they just do what we do.
You're being the parent that you needed.
Yes. Yeah. So, that's been huge, because it's obviously enriched my life to have him, because I'm like looking at him all the time, looking at me, you know what I mean? So
watching your every move.
Yeah. So it puts me on, we don't have to spend very much time apart at all. So like, those even weak bad days, like I have to be on point, I have to be, or just, I don't know.
And that's the hardest. It's the hardest. Even I find that with my kids, and and they have their dad, we do week on, week off. You couldn't ask for a better situation, and it's honestly great. But those weeks, I'm tired. There's days I'm tired and I'm grumpy, and to hold it together on those days can be very trying.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
How about your family? Are they surprised about who you've become from being? Or what is the response to you from the time where you didn't have a good perspective about things to the person you are today?
Yeah.
Or the guy who was quiet and who was shy versus, and all of a sudden you're the guy who's on commercials all the time, and
it's really weird.
In a part of all
the
of this.
newspapers and magazines.
It's very strange, because
Did they bring that up with you?
Not really, but I mean the general sense, like my mom's super proud of me, obviously, because she was just like, my parents were both like bummed out that I wasn't going to do anything, like that I didn't want to do anything. And, they tried all the way along through. So it was really weird how it happened. Then it happened so quick that they were just like, what? Like they were just weirded out.
What was the switch?
Yeah.
What made that happen?
It just kind of, I think, blew everybody away in that sense. And, and I was able to be a little bit more contributing to my family too, a little bit now, you know what I mean? Instead of just being like, see ya, always gone. And like, I'm just like a butterfly that way, you know what I mean? But, but it's kind of actually probably brought us a little closer and give them a little more, like belief in me.
Yeah.
And then my mom just loves that the philanthropical part of what we do, and like giving back, like that's huge in our culture and religion and all that. My mom's religion, I should say. So that I think is really powerful too, and it's nice to be able to not be a total slouch in their eyes,
Yeah.
So
it always feels good, no matter whether you go on your own road or not, and you're like, I'm my own person. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. It's still always
and to feel good about it.
To have your parents like, oh, okay, yeah, that does feel good for them to be proud.
Yeah, it's huge. And friends too, like everybody from school and back in the day, it's just probably like, I mean, I haven't kept contact with too many people from California, just a few friends, like solid friends, which, we joke about it all the time, because, I just really didn't care. So, like, it was like I was probably pretty high on the list for failure, you know what I mean? And and now it's like
But this also goes back to my point. I mean, Cody and I have this discussion all the time. I don't mean to interrupt you there, but I was thinking about this, that just because you struggled in school, just because it didn't mean that you're any less successful for it.
Right.
I mean,
I mean, I still learned. You know what I mean? I
course.
still picked everything up. I just wasn't like, you know.
But it's also the
involved, and I
culture of school and the different things of school that some people just don't thrive in.
Yeah.
And it isn't until you get out and, you know, become create your own environment to thrive in.
Right.
Well, I look at it like for people that are driven who make that decision, there's so much opportunity out there right now. Whether it's, and not that I'm not bashing on people who go a more, you know, traditional route or they do the college thing or whatever. But I think sometimes I feel like there's too much value put on that's the only way. When there's just so much opportunity, there's more opportunity right now. You know, you can get on an app and, you know, whether you're delivering something or you're walking somebody's dogs or you're doing
Learning how to roof a house or
there's so
side a
many
house.
side
So many
hustles,
ways.
so many ways. If you're driven and you want to make that decision that this is what your life is going to be, and you know, or you want to not only elevate yourself, but hey, I want to take care of the people around me.
Right.
Like it's there. Like it's just.
Well, I
having
think it's
that
interesting.
realization.
School doesn't have any way of explaining grit in somebody. You know, so the determination, right, to make up is the grit. And school doesn't. There's no way to explain it other than whether you're good at schoolwork or not.
Yeah.
Right.
But the other part is our minds don't fully develop until you're 25, and I don't know if anybody's mind's fully
fully developed. I don't know about
because
that.
you don't use them all, right? But I think a lot of people, we lose our imagination
Yeah.
as they get older because they think that this is the way it has
Well,
to
but
be.
that's like one of the things that doesn't happen in school is like, you know, they teach you, okay, biology maybe is the closest thing that they can get to that teaches you about yourself. And they do not teach you about yourself. And if you could instill children at a young age with those dreams and keep them instead of like shut out and shut up, to, you know, if you could fill people up with that early on to know that they can actually choose and have a decision and what that looks like, that's just not taught in school. It's not taught in school at all.
Well, and I think a lot of people get caught up in the track, right? Because only 20% of the population graduates from a college of any point, right? So that's 80% out there. But interestingly enough, the ones that, you know, say, hey, what is it that I want to do? As long as you don't, you know, the only thing that stops somebody from being successful is the thing between your ears. We have our, you know, that terror barrier that we have. And so those are the ones that, if you can get through that, you know, you can
And
do
just
anything
figure
you
it
want.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Don't
You will
put your own
figure it out.
obstacles.
Yeah.
Don't make up your own obstacles, just like you were talking about before. But we do, and we create those in our own mind. You know?
Well, the number one thing that happens is there's, you know, like you go, okay, I want to do this. So you think about the what, right? And then what most people will do is they start going, how am I going to do this? And they start going, oh, and they start stacking up all these different things. And they're like,
Super
they
overwhelming.
You talk yourself out of it. You're like, yeah, no, you know. And I think that's the failure right there is what I think kills a lot of dreams is you've never done it before, so you don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you stay focused on the what and you are grateful and you can bring that into your present reality in your mind, your body will go there. It'll just, you'll find a way. But as soon as you find ways out, it's just not going to happen.
You're going to take that way out every time.
You know, and be like, yeah, and you'll talk. It's like
Only because I'm totally just curious. So have you gotten into visioneering and when it comes to the secret of manifesting your mind,
Are you talking about visualizing things and?
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's all kind of the same, right?
Right.
Visualization, but it's.
I feel like a schlub because I started the book and I didn't finish. Sorry.
I kind of like
There's actually a documentary.
the documentary's a little better, and the reason I say that, usually the book's always better, but the documentary's better because it is about visualizing. So there's a lot of visuals that they show you that makes you understand a little better.
I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah, it is on Netflix. It's like always on Netflix. Yeah,
You've never read the book?
I started.
I think I have like 3.
I know.
I'll see if I can find one for you.
I'm inspired now to I'll do the
I'd say
documentary.
watch the documentary and then read the book after.
I think the problem was I was at a point. I'm sorry, I somehow changing the subject. I think I was reading I was at a point too where people were talking about it, but I think I had like 3 books I was reading at the same time, and I've got to just stay on one, and I wasn't even reading books. You know, there was a point in my life where I was looking at, you know, self-help books or books that help you elevate yourself, and I was just like, that's hokey. And then I realized, like, man, I'm stagnant here. I've got to just make a decision to continue to educate, and there's something to this. So I started to almost just hit it all so hard at one time that and I just never got back to it. But I was reading so many things, and I've continued to read.
Right.
But just in that pursuit of how do I better myself? Like, how do I continue to challenge myself? How do I continue to learn? Anyway, it wasn't that I had anything against it or that I just, whatever. I just, all of a sudden, I was just one of the things that I was trying to consume, and I couldn't get it all at the time. I got sidetracked.
I think it's a timing thing for all of us. We have to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
But, what's interesting is in The Secret, it talks about the law of attraction.
Right.
Yep.
But the law of attraction is a secondary law to the law of vibration. And so in order to achieve something, you have to start with where it's at, but it's kind of backwards because we think we have to go there. No, you start there. Just like what you were saying is, how does a person act that makes $100,000?
Right.
Are they the ones that's out there robbing somebody?
Yeah.
And no.
What do you consume yourself with? This is something I tell my kid all the time. I was like, your friends will make you. What you surround yourself, what you watch, what you will be who you will be.
Right.
So you want to be that's what you consume.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
Todd,
Well,
you
and
need to use the restroom, buddy.
Hey, do you mind taking him next door?
Yeah.
I tell
The
them all
loo.
I tell my kids all
Off
the
to
time.
the loo with ya. That's my British
Off to the
accent,
loo.
buddy. Off to the loo with ya.
I tell my kids all the time, I go, you want to know the secret to achieving anything you want? And they're like, what, Dad? And I'm like, thoughts become things.
Yeah.
And so they, and I don't know how much they get it, but I literally, we have a place downstairs, that we go through positive affirmations because that becomes their inner voice.
Yeah.
And, if you tell somebody they're garbage enough, that's what they believe.
Right.
So
That's a huge part of it too. You just always the talk you get from around you, and if you pick it up, what I learned to do is I don't really care. I've had so many people talk smack, and it's equally good and bad. I've a lot of great things that have happened, but there's also a lot of haters, and they're louder, and for whatever reason, we all know, you know what I mean? A lot of sad people are reflect on other people. So I know that, and even though you see things that can hurt your feelings and stuff, like at the end of the day, I'm like, I just learned how to disregard it, you know what I mean? And to not let that break me down because it does kind of hinder your visualization because it'll literally creep in, and I'm like, I think it's the hardest job there is. I think the hardest thing to do is to have sustained, consistent thoughts that you carry with you day to day.
Yeah.
And the days that I wake up and I do visualize, because this last month went by, we had these dinners over at Perch, so I was like, working and I'm training for this fight, so I have all this stuff going on, so I visualize all this stuff to get this stuff into motion. But then when you get consumed by it all and you don't actually step back and remember you're going, you can get bogged down, and I'll have moments of weakness, and I'll be like a week gone by that I haven't even been intentional, and then life is happening to me, and then it's only when I reset and I go, I make that time. The morning is so important. The evening's pretty important too, but the morning is so important to get yourself in that right place. And if I just get up and brush my teeth and go into my day, it's whatever the day wants from me, but if I'm intentional about it and I get up, meditation is huge. I clear my thoughts. I spend anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes sitting in silence, and there's millions of thoughts that come to your brain, and usually with work, it's all the big things that I need to do that I'm like, I gotta get up and do that, and it takes all my energy sometimes to sit there and say, it's okay, it's still there, it's gonna be there, waiting for you, don't worry about it, and just being able to get to that, even if I actually only accomplish 5 to 10 minutes of absolute mindlessness, just kind of then I can I feel like my mind has rested a little, and I transition from that into what you were talking about, visualization. So
interestingly enough, every 15 minutes that you're in that zone is an hour of sleep for your body's rest and your mind.
Every 15 minutes?
Every 15 minutes. So you're getting a 4-to-1 ratio.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh, that's interesting.
So if you
that's
can
another thing I go through spurts. This is I can't stay with things consistent. I've tried meditation at times, and it's like I'm good for a while, and then I'm not good for a long time, and I know how important it is.
Yeah.
I'm really good with that between the hours of 3 and 5 in the morning. And so for each one of us, it depends on what it is, but those hours are between 3 and 5. So for you, it might be I don't know, 10 and midnight, since you're up at 1. What time do you wake up? 9?
About midnight. Yeah, I work.
So right before you wake up. So it's going to be that 9 to 11, probably sometime after 9 before you wake up. But you kind of put yourself in a resting state, and so it's called alpha.
My best time for thinking is between about 2:30 a.m. and about 4:30 a.m. That's when I'm in the zone, and that's when I concentrate the best on things. That's the best.
It's quiet.
That's the time I have the best,
Phone's
the best
not ringing.
ideas. I'm cooking every morning like that. I'm cooking.
But you know what's interesting?
But I'm by myself, and that's when all my thoughts flow. And that's when I got to get better about writing things down. But that's where all my best ideas come. That's when I'm in a flow state at that time. Anyway.
Well, and I think a lot of that has to do with the world is calmer.
Yes,
at that hour.
Quiet. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my favorite time. Ever since
Oh, yeah.
I was, my kids were young, and my oldest is 21. So ever since they were young, I always got up earlier than they did because I had to have that time where I was ready, dressed, had my stuff done, and ready to go before I even woke them up.
Right.
I just had to have that time.
I do too. But I can do it while you're sleeping. It's just in between. Like I know that I'm resting, and I know that I'm somewhat sleeping, but I also am aware of what's going on. So it's kind of a weird state.
That half asleep, half awake. I do not like that state, Cody. That's my worst
I'm not
state.
saying it, but you're totally rested. Like I don't know how to describe that. But you're actually awake during that. Anyway,
I
but
don't
you're
feel
sleeping.
that.
But anyway,
But how do you find, we're going to get in, I want to ask you, I have a lot of questions for you on that. So listen, time management, it's something I'm terrible with. I know you have a lot going on. You got this restaurant, you got the roofing business, you're training for a fight, which we're going to get into that.
I'm excited.
What are you doing?
I am too.
How do you do what kind of time management are you doing here? You got a personal assistant taking care of you?
No, I've actually downsized my my companies ever since COVID. Like when COVID hit, I stuck my foot on the gas, and since then with material things and all these other things that kind of hindered some of our jobs, work ethic went down the drain. So people would ask for more money while they're not doing their job, and I would happily let them leave, and I just did that. I started absorbing work, and it's taken me 2 years to get my company from 20 some odd people to 3. Back down to 3 people. I have no assistant.
Less stress.
It's less stress. I do what I can do. I'm not going to go do somebody's job and hear about somebody, did it wrong. It really affected our just how our jobs turned out, and all of a sudden there's all these problems. So I was just like, this is bad.
It's getting crazy.
Yeah, and obviously trying to juggle a restaurant at the same time because, the restaurant was the same thing, Seva Kitchen, which was what it was before Perch. That was a really crazy time. In 2016, I don't know what it was. A lot of our stuff that I was going through with Mom and Taj and stuff really threw me into a loop, and I drank a lot at the end of 2015, just at home and stuff like that. Not obviously wasn't out at the bars but it still affected me because I started to lose my passion. I was like, what am I doing? And I remember it was Halloween. I hung out with one of the guys that ended up opening up Outward Media Group with me, and I was like, all right, man, I need to reset the button here again, and stopped drinking for 8 months, and in that 8 months bought the building, started opening construction on Save a Kitchen, opened Outward Media Group, got my real estate license, and started doing real estate.
Wow.
All in that time. I wasn't tired. I was just going, and I wasn't great, and that's kind of what
Crazy one. Cutting one thing out of your life.
Yeah, because it affected all the other things. I was showing up on time. I was eating better because when you're out, if you're just having a drink or whatever, it doesn't have to be going to get hammered. It's 1 or 2 drinks, and it makes you. The best way to explain it is there's this rabbi. If you look him up on YouTube and you just YouTube rabbi talking about lobsters. And he's talking about lobsters, weirdest thing, but he's talking about lobsters, and he's like, the really interesting thing about lobsters that a lot of people don't know is just, how they grow, and they, when they start to get bigger inside their shell, they start to feel really constricted, and what they do is they go under a rock and they hide from predatory, creatures or whatever they have to worry about, and they'll cast off their shell. They grow a little bigger, put on a new shell, and they go back out, and they do that over and over and over again throughout throughout their life. And, you know, the catalyst for the lobster to grow is that it feels uncomfortable. And what we do as human beings is we get like a Percocet, or we drink, or
we try to
smoke weed, or whatever.
Hide that uncomfortableness.
Yeah, and it may seem like, you know, I'm just brushing off the week, you know, because, you know, the time that you change your life is when you get off at work at 5 o'clock. You don't go to the bar, you go home and you start working on you.
Yeah, that's your time.
You know, so what most people do is they go, man, that sucked. It's Friday. Let's go drink. They drink through the weekend. Boom, Sunday, Monday, they wake up hungover and they go through the week again, and they never grow because they've deadened their, you know, I'm taking care of I'm relaxing, you know.
Yeah,
like I worked hard this week.
Self-care, it's whatever it is. But it's not like really.
But you feel fine. You know, you're okay with it. It makes it okay. It makes your current state okay.
Because it deadens all that,
right.
and so you don't care.
So you're like, fine, I'll just go do it again. And you do this over and over.
And this
but
pattern,
as soon as you remove that and you're uncomfortable now, and you're like,
that's when you grow.
Start dealing with yourself. And you start dealing with all those little things that you're bearing, and this little relationship, or that little thing, or this, or whatever I'm not good at, or this happened to me back way when, and you have to deal with them. Now you don't have that outlet, you know what I mean? That's what seems to be an outlet, which is actually just a block, you know, and I found that really interesting. So like that's kind of what happened then, you know what I mean? And it was really weird how crazy and fast everything that I wanted to make happen. That was probably the time that I had the most effect of that visualizing to realization. It was incredible, you know, and that's kind of why I'm trying to do this again, because I, you know, even with the restaurant, and it didn't work out. A lot of those things didn't work out. You know, I was relying on other people to kind of think like me, and they don't think like me.
Right.
And what I did was I paid people way too much and gave them everything that I could give them, thinking that like this person will take care of everything. And it was the exact opposite. It was like people put their feet up and was like,
he's going to take care of everything.
The Harvey Singh gravy train, you know, and that's what it was. And so I had to slowly shake those things off, finally close the restaurant down in 2019 because it was just a nightmare and it was just draining me. And then I was like, okay, and I was just living there. I was living upstairs on the apartment from there because we had already been traveling around so much. And you know, then pandemic hits, and I was like, thank God it's closed, you know, and also having these thoughts like, am I going to open this restaurant again? I'm like, you know, I lost like over $1 million in that restaurant, you know, so for me to go do it again, I'm like, well,
Scary.
do I care about the money? You know, I'm like, I don't. Like people were like, how do you? I'm like, I don't need to get it back. Like, look at me, I'm fine. You know what I mean? I still go do those things, and since some things failed and didn't work out, does that mean I never do it again? I was like, no. If I'm gonna fail at a restaurant, I'd rather fail twice than fail once. Like, what am I gonna do when I'm 60? Be like, yeah, I opened a restaurant once. It was terrible, and it sucked that I couldn't do it. No, I'd rather go give it another whirl. You know. So it was kind of funny because I had these thoughts going on in my mind, and then we had that big 3-week shutdown where everything was quiet, and downtown was. I mean, there was nobody downtown, not a single vehicle all day, not a homeless person, not anybody.
Where they all go?
And we were riding skateboards and scooters in the middle of the street, running red lights, and nobody was there. I mean, it was crazy.
Wow.
And then when that reset happened, where they were like, okay, you know, we're going to open things back up, Daisy Duke's, you know, kitty corner from us was just like open all out, you know, and they were trying to close bars down at 10 o'clock, which is like, dude, our bars get busy at 10 o'clock. That's when they start.
Yeah,
So they didn't listen, and thankfully they didn't get too much grief for it, you know. But that was the only thing going on downtown. So we were upstairs sleeping, and every, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, it was just from like 11:30 midnight, it was so loud because people were even more wild because everything else is closed.
Nothing
so
else to do.
There's parking on our block, on the bank parking lot and on the street, and there's just, you know, on the way back, oh boy, he would wake up like, you know, at least once or twice a weekend he would wake up because of how loud it was, and they're breaking bottles, and there's fights, and there's, you know, I'm cleaning puke out in the morning. So like one night I was just like random, just got this wild hair, and I took my flat top grill out there and just started making carne asada street tacos right off the patio.
What did you call it?
So I called it El Pinchi Indio Mexicano, which also started a lot of crap. By the way.
So
Really?
when you started doing that, I was like, we have to get up on the weekend. We have to go get these tacos. It's a time we're up anyways. I was like, we have to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be morning for us.
We
Yeah.
were literally I was open
It
from
was
10
morning.
to 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
You know?
and we're like, oh, that's perfect time. That's when we're up.
That's awesome.
We were like,
Yeah.
let's get up and go have breakfast.
Yeah, let's go have tacos.
Yeah, but it's crazy. I mean, that's kind of what started it off, and then I just started doing it myself. Like daytime, I would, it wasn't a whole lot going on with roofing at the time either because it was kind of mellow, and I just started doing it, and I was cutting, all the prep and go out and cook and making, $1,000 to $1,500 a night. I'm like, yeah, I could do this, and then then they started letting people sit inside, and we
Then you
started
started
doing
having
inside.
beers with it.
Yeah,
Yep.
And then when one, that kind of went on for a little while and just got us rolling into it, And Moses came into the picture not too long after that, and then it was okay to have people seated, and yeah, just one thing led to another, and here we are open again. I won't say it's easy. I won't say it's not a struggle. You guys obviously understand that. But everything I learned from before, and I wouldn't know that, and
Unless
the
you went
stuff
through it.
right?
You got to go
and
through
the
it.
stuff I learned from my contracting business, from my, my restaurant. In a restaurant, you might serve how many ever people in a day. Well, a roofing thing is one here, so like it was,
Right.
everything happens faster.
Yeah.
So I just learned so much, and it's invaluable knowledge that you can't go get at school. You can't go get anywhere else. You just got to
The
lick your wounds
multitasking
and pick up and go, or not, or go, I'm done, and sell everything and cry and run away. I mean, it's not like I
some
don't.
days you want to.
There's some days where I'm like, I could just leave right now. I could just go, sell all my stuff and move into the woods, like they
Yes.
say. I'm really, really strongly considered that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right around pandemic.
Hey, man, I don't blame you.
Yeah, his school stuff got weird. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not
Yeah.
doing the masks. I'm not doing that. So I started homeschooling him, and it just turned into, back into this situation where we're just like
Perfect.
completely self-sufficient in a way, and just with all that knowledge of like, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that, is invaluable, huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's awesome, though, that you were able to just build that from doing that off the street. What was you said for a second there, you're like, that caused other problems.
Oh, yeah.
Can we even talk about that?
El Pinchi Indio Mexicano
Yeah, yeah.
literally means the effing Indian
Right.
Mexican, which is what
Yeah.
all my roofers call me because I
Right.
speak fluent Spanish, and we joke about it.
Right.
So I just, did it as a joke. I really didn't even, it wasn't like, let's open this restaurant called this. I was like,
Right.
let's make a page. And I was like, I'll just call it this. That'll
Yes.
be hilarious. And we had all our roofers there all the time. I had like 30, 40 roofers out there every night, and they would eat like 7, 8 tacos a piece. I'm like, yeah, no, they get it, and most of our clientele was Native American and Mexican, and I got a lot of grief for being racist against Native Americans. I'm like, no, I'm Indian, that's not what it. And it just set a bunch of people
Could
off.
anybody be serious about it? It's yeah, that's so
dumb.
crazy.
Yeah,
so
That's
crazy.
funny. Because when she brought that up, I was like, oh, that's funny.
We loved it.
People loved it. I mean,
Yeah.
but there was just a few people that started talking, and there's a little bit of that going around. I'm like, it's silly.
Yeah.
But
I actually used to drive truck into Las Vegas every day for my job, and I worked with all Mexican crews. Most of them didn't speak English, but they all called me Pinche Pelong.
yeah,
And that's how I just, they're like, hey, Pinche Pelong. And they all knew me as that. And I don't think they even knew my real name, but I worked with those guys for years.
yeah.
Anyway, so we did a video one time too where my son speaks Spanish, and I said, let's do this video. We're going to promote these. I think we were doing chorizo. Yeah. And so I start out the video, and we green screen it. We show this mariachi band behind us, and then he steps on, and I'm like, I said, call me Pinche Pelong, and then start talking about, and he was all like, very uncomfortable, like he did not grow up being, and when he was a kid, that wouldn't have had any value, but speaking Spanish for a few years, then now that has value, that like those feel like real words, right? So I'm like, dude, just call me Pinche Pelong when you start off the video, and then talk about anything other than food. And we're going to subtitle it all that it's all about the...
See who notices.
hilarious.
Yes.
That's great.
And so he does this, and he's like, and the whole thing is like, our chorizo is so tasty and spicy and made with this and this, and all the subtitles say this, but the whole time he's like, so effing Baldy, and it's all in Spanish, and he's like, wants me to
Dude, that's great.
talk about this, but I don't, my Spanish isn't really good about that. He goes, I can talk about religion, but I'm just going to say chorizo every now and then, so he thinks I'm still talking about
brilliant.
It's a great
It is
video.
funny.
and then and I'm outside, so we shot it at different times. And I just said, man, just have fun with it. Like, I couldn't record my part in front of him. Like, it was just too, I don't know why I couldn't. But so he would go outside, I'd record my part. So it looks like on the video, like I just step off and he steps on. And then he's like, so now I'll turn it back to him. So he talked nothing about chorizo, but all the subtitles are selling this food. And
That's great.
anyway, and we had fun with that. But and it looks like we're just standing right there next to each other in the video, but we weren't. We were both recording our parts separately. But it's been funny because now we've had people come to us and say, hey, I saw a video where Connor, he's not saying anything what those subtitles are saying.
That's great. Yeah.
That was a great one.
Those make those fun. Anyway, so when she said, hey, there's a guy downtown saying this.
I was like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is our restaurant. We have to go.
I know.
Yeah, it's been a hit. Yeah, a little bit of controversy on the authenticity of it too. You know what I mean? Oh, these aren't real. You're not even Mexican, and this, that, and the other. But like,
hey, we do burritos.
yeah,
Like,
I'm like, yeah.
we have people come
I
to us
grew
and
up,
say-
and we this is the tacos that I ate when I came out of the bar in California and LA, and this is exactly how they're made. You know, and the 30 roofers out here eating are my testament
I
to
love
these
it.
are great street tacos.
And now your restaurant is the Mexican Indian influence, and
Yep.
I love that. That's awesome. That's so great.
Yeah, one thing that was kind of missing with Sava that was really hard with Sava Kitchen was like we wanted to go more tapas, and we did all these obscure things, and it was really hard. People just were like, I just want like a burger, you know, I just want to stay. They wanted something simple, so we added on those American classics. You know, we have some pretty amazing sandwiches. You know, we do a awesome Philadelphia cheesesteak, but then we do our street tacos. We do elote, and we throw a few Indian dishes in there.
Yeah, that was super good.
Yeah.
We had that. I could have just sat there and ate that.
I could have ate a whole huge bowl of it. That's it.
We made the mistake of sharing one. And,
Yeah. No, they go quick.
yeah.
But that's kind of the idea, and that's kind of what the concept has turned into itself. I mean, it just kind of like the restaurant almost kind of made itself in a way because the tacos led to this opening, and then was the birds that were, you know, the murals that we did on there. Somebody was like, hey, you know, let's call it Perch because there's, you know, and then it turned into the name, and then the food, different kinds of food, and we're doing street food and all this, you know, so we're like, let's just keep running with that, and it just seems to do really well, you know.
Hey, I'm a big fan of letting it grow and evolve, and if something isn't working, that's okay. Don't get too stuck on what you think people should like.
Right.
Like, you know, it is. It's finding a balance. For a long time, when we first opened up, I had a specific thing in my head about I want to make these kinds of sandwiches and I want to make this. And everybody was like, when are you going to make a burger? And I was so like, everybody makes a burger. I don't make a burger. I make specialty sandwiches and I make this and I make that. Eventually we did a burger and that was our number one seller. And eventually that's what everybody asked us to make. When are you going to make a burger again? But yeah, not getting too like I have other food truckers that'll come talk to me and I'll say, if I've learned anything, you know, you got to make what you want to make, but you got to make what other people want.
Yeah.
You know, you got to find some of that in there. Mm-hmm. If not, you're going to stand your ground alone on something. But I think that's great that you mix and you're like, okay, we got a little of this.
Yeah, somebody might not want Mexican food, you know, but they might want a burger, or somebody might want just try the Indian food. It's like it's really cool to walk around the table. Sometimes I'm bussing or, you know, however I can help, and I love that's my time to kind of really see people's reactions and how and listen. I really listen to people and everybody's sitting there with something completely different that you'd have to buy at a different restaurant. Each item would have to come from a different restaurant. They're all in one place, and they're all made well.
So
and
awesome.
Fun. Yeah.
And I like the fact too, because like Billings and Montana in general, you know, we're behind, always have been. We're 10 years behind. So I like the fact that I love different foods. Like I go anywhere to have something different. I don't want the traditional American cheeseburger. I've had that my whole life, you know. Right. So to me, I love going places that I don't get that traditional thing. I want different. And I think Billings is now getting to that point where
they're getting a little more adventurous.
Yeah, like just going to different places around Billings, you notice that their menus and their different, the drinks and different things are becoming more evolved and cultural, and I think that's awesome and that's amazing, and I really like that I love Indian food. That's probably my Indian food and Mexican food are probably my two favorites out of all. So like I love Indian food and I love Mexican food. So I was like, this is super cool. And I also did some cooking classes, which I found was super neat. And I had seen those actually before I knew who you were, the Perch and all that. I had seen those, and I was actually, that would be so fun for us to go do, something different. We had plans at night, so we didn't get tickets, but yeah, so that was super neat about the cooking classes. So you're going to do more of those?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a lot of pressure to have more Indian food on there.
Ooh, yes, I agree.
It is a little difficult, especially starting to go into our busier season, but like it's hard to teach these guys how to do. I just learned because like my mom was like, cut these, cut that, and I just was around it, so like I just know like what it should taste like and what's too much or what's not enough of something. So those kind of little nuances are hard to carry over. So like I just make all the Indian food. I just make sure I rotate back and enough time to go do my things and then come back, make the food, and then and make sure they're always stocked. So it is a little tricky.
Yeah, to make sure that you have all.
But we want to do more. I mean, it's Indian food is one thing that's really nice about Indian, or at least Indian vegetarian food, is it's made for a lot of people. So like you can. You're not making one off for somebody, one plate, you know what I mean? No. So like I can make a nice big pot of something, and it's good for the day. And it's a lot.
Cool thing about Indian food too, it's like one of the only foods culturally that is really easy to go vegetarian. You cut out the ghee, you cut out, then like you're vegetarian. So.
That's all we ate when, I didn't have meat till I was like 13. I think was the first time I had meat. And my aunt and uncles and all that stuff, from England, and brought us over to the dark side of, But we're slowly reverting back to that, just because I'm getting older and I'm kind of like more, kind of trying to be a little more proactive about my health. Like I don't want to be the guy that's like later on trying to recover or save myself from whatever,
And what works for your body.
And being as busy, being a business person and being busy all the time, like, it's easy to go through the drive-through. It's easy to go do this all the time till you realize, holy cow, I have, been eating out for 4 years.
And Indian food is super easy to prep ahead. So like I will make lentils and chickpea, I'll do big old pots of that and put it in the fridge. And we eat
it's
basmati rice and lentils for a week.
It gets better like over the week too. Yeah. So I think those things are, I don't know, they're just kind of reverting back around to, I don't know, with him too, he's got like some weird dietary stuff that goes on. So like I have to be very conscious and aware of what he's eating, and he's starting to eat clean. Cookies are okay though, right, Taj?
We could stop and help ourselves.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. Yeah.
Thumbs up from the
Best
Taj
meal
man.
yet.
Yeah. So with that, you have a fight you're training for in April. So how did you get into fighting? How long have you been doing that, man?
Man, I used to train back in the day when in my early 20s. I used to train pretty heavily. We used to fight other gyms, kind of like underground type of thing. Like, our best guys would go meet the other best guys, and we would train, and then we would spar, and then we would show each other stuff. And so that was kind of the extent of my fighting, and then I just stopped. I didn't do anything with it. And it was just kind of really weird how it came about. Obviously, I've had these thoughts in my mind about health and fitness, and I need to start doing more and being more intentional and making the time for my body and my, like eating right and thinking right, doing all those. So those things are kind of floating around, and there was this other roofer in town that. Before I started the company, there was this little gap between working for the other guy, and it overlapped to me starting my own company. And I was selling cars for a little while because I just didn't, Taj was still in Mama's belly, and I was, trying to do whatever I could to keep rolling through. And so I ended up working there, and this guy was the GM or a sales manager or something there, and kind of good salesman, but super shysty, so I was kind of like always standoffish with the guy, kind of keep a little separation. Well, maybe a year or two later, once I think it was that next year, 2014 storm, when I, started, that storm hit, and this guy, approached me and was like, hey, let me come sell for you. And like, I kind of rolled him around and showed him a few things, and it was just kind of just didn't feel right. So I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And he didn't like that very much. So he went off and started his own thing, but has ever since then always just trashed me on Facebook and this and that, always talking smack. And So we'd go back and forth, and he would say whatever, and then I'd see him in public, and he'd be like, "Hey, Harvey," and he'd be super cool to me. And like after like 2 or 3 times, after like the third, it must have been a few times, and I finally I like lost it on him. And this guy's like huge. He's like 290, 300 pounds. He's a bodybuilder, like massive, just that whole person. And so like it was really weird. I went off on him. I just kind of lost it, and then my mind was like, "What are you doing?" And then he just kind of like took it, and like we went separate ways, and I blocked him on Facebook so I didn't have to hear about it anymore. And I think it was like, gosh, it would have been right around June or July of this past year, and one of the gals was posting to we needed some servers or something at the restaurant, and here he starts chiming in and going off, and she screenshots me the video or the text message or the messages on Facebook, and then I kind of was just like, "Hey, you shithead," like I texted him like, "You got something to say," and we just kind of go back and forth, and I'm gonna knock you out, next time you see me, don't say hi, I'm just gonna knock you out, I'm just gonna walk up and knock you out, and like so that was kind of like, I don't want to be rolling around with some weirdo out there, so I was like, "Dude, come on right now and knock me out. I'm downtown right now, come knock me out," And I was with Taj, and we were just laughing about it, and like, "Oh, you're gonna shoot me. I'm not coming down there. This, that, and the other." And
this is all going on over Facebook or texting?
This is all texting now.
Oh, my dear.
Oh, my
So then he didn't show up. I'm like, "I'm here," and he didn't show up. And then it was a few days later, I was talking to Terrell, who does the Fusion Fight Leagues, and this guy sometimes sponsors over there too, So I was like, "Hey, why don't you tell this guy if he wants to knock me out, come fight me in the ring?" And he agreed. And so then I was like, "Uh-oh."
I better get in
So I
shape.
started training, and it like whipped me into shape, and I, trained really hard for 2 months and got closer and was like, "Hey man, so we're good, right?" And he ended up backing out of the fight. And was like, "Nope, I can't," made all these excuses, and I was just like kind of blown away by that. And then they were like, "So what do you want to do?" I'm like, "Well, I feel great, I'm like, I probably should go fight somebody, and like they just find me somebody," and they found some kid from Colorado, and and I just went through with it. I went all 3 rounds, lost to a split decision.
Okay, so how old? Let me go back here though. How old were you when you just started training for 2 months?
42, yeah. So that would have been right here. What did I fight on December 4th or 5th? It was.
Oh man!
So just like a little while ago, not too long
really
ago.
Recently, yeah. I think I started training in October and November, and then boom, right into the fight, like from nothing, from like Taco Belly and everything to like just started training hard, and I was training hard because I didn't want to get my butt kicked. You know what I mean? I was like, I need to have cardio. This guy's huge, massive. I could run away from him for a round, so till he's winded, And so my whole thing was just get that cardio. And then I ended up fighting this other kid who had decent cardio too, and that was kind of my stand-up game was really good. It was really awesome to do it. I was just like, man, and it has nothing to do with like the ego part of it or like, oh, I'm a tough guy or anything like that. I really went in there and I had to make peace with myself of like I might just lose, and I'm like, okay, if you're okay losing, then who cares? Just go in there and do it, and it was great. It was the best thing that I ever did for myself, or I guess whatever this guy was trying to do to start smack with me, you know what I mean, just made me.
Isn't it funny how you go back to things and you realize like,
Thanks.
oh,
Yeah,
I
I'm like,
really
thank you.
enjoyed that before, and then you just forget about it until you start doing it again. You're like, why did I ever stop?
Right. No, and that's totally what it was. Now I'm like, dude, there was nothing that would have brought like why you're not going to start fighting in your 40s?
Yeah.
You just don't do that. Like it was never on my mind. Nowhere was it like, oh, one day I'm gonna.
When I'm 42
it was
years
gone.
old.
It was 20 years ago. It was gone. Oh, I used to tell. Yeah, I used to do that.
That's why I asked, because I'm like, man, I'm having thoughts of just being sore. I just feel it's so sore. I could just picture all that, just that training.
But what really is helping me a lot is my mindset on it, because I have developed a pretty strong mind for some of the stuff that I've done and like gone to try to even do is just like ridiculous. So like when I train, I'm like trained pretty intense, and I am very, very, very like awake in my mind. I'm not just doing the things. I'm like,
you're very present.
I'm very present. So like I'm really, form and all. And that was not like when I was younger. It was just like like you're just like going out, get it. But now it's way more intentional. So like, you know, when I'm done, especially, I'm just like, wow, like how good I feel. Like I'm like almost am like in better shape than I was when I was 20, you know, and I'm like, that's crazy, you know, and that's what my goal is kind of with this whole dietary change is I want to be, you know, I turned 43 on March 30th. My fight's on April 9th. And I'd like to show up on April 9th in like literally the best shape of my life.
Where's your fight?
It's at the Metro.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
April 9th.
April 9th.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Saturday, probably.
Oh, we might have to.
It is a Saturday.
Is
It is a Saturday, yeah.
Yeah.
So what? Who are you fighting? Like, do you know?
I'm not sure yet. They'll pick somebody kind of in the weight division, so I'm fighting a little bit lower weight. I fought at, well, there wasn't supposed to be a weight division before, but the guy I ended up fighting, I fought at 160, so I had to lose 10 pounds. But like now, just because I've been working out more and stuff, I'm less weight, so like I'm already where I need to be. I'll be fighting at 155, so they'll find somebody somewhere.
So is it a big, huge fight then? Is there going to be lots of people from everywhere?
Oh yeah, there'll be you know a lot of folks from the Grindhouse here in Billings. That'll be fighting, and then they usually have people from all over Utah, Idaho, Colorado. You just never know, you know. Where, it's been growing, so.
And it's at the Metro, so it's going to be a pretty big.
Yeah, it'll
so
be.
Does it travel? Do they travel to different states?
Uh-huh.
Wow,
yeah.
Crazy.
And it's MMA.
It's MMA. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. It'll be a
We
good
might
time.
have to put that in the
So
calendar.
do you
Yeah,
have?
please do.
Do you have background in karate, like wrestling?
Just I started when I was like 19 or 20. I got really heavy into jiu-jitsu, hapkido, taekwondo. So like a mix of stuff, a few different things that I did, and I went pretty strong for about 2 years. My girlfriend at the time was working out with me, so we went twice a day. Like we worked out 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, every single day.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, it was our life.
I'm just envisioning, like she wakes you up by punching you. You know? Like next thing you know, it's on.
That's funny.
Is there one? I know you're probably heavy into jiu-jitsu still, right?
I'm starting to get more into it. I think that's where I'm lacking right now. That's kind of why I lost the fight, because I was throwing some pretty good jabs and everything like that, but then guy would, you know, grab my legs and take me down and hold me down or hit me, you know, and so like I had to be trying to get up. So that ground game is where I'm going to need to do a little more work.
How much time do you have to how much time did they give you, do you think, to know who this guy is? What is his strengths? What is his whatever? Like,
not much.
They don't give you much time to do your own homework. And
no, I didn't know nothing about the last guy I fought. You know, I didn't know anything about him.
That would stress me out.
It is kind of stressful, but at the same time, it's like I almost don't want to know because I don't want to start going to
psych yourself out.
Yeah, psyching myself out or go trying to find the guy and watch videos and do all that. I just feel like I just have to focus on myself and like be aware of like all the different possibilities. I don't know. That might be an irresponsible way of doing it, but I just don't like the idea of like, you know, like just creeping on somebody till the fight. You know?
Yeah.
You know what's funny is, so I wrestled in college, and we did judo and taekwondo growing up and wrestling big. Anyway, most of the time, most guys are like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know anything that they do. And you'll pick up, like somebody will say, hey, he's really good at the right, or he's really, like he's fast on the left. Make sure you watch. But short of that, they don't want to know, because then it gets into their head.
Yeah.
And
then they start trying to defend something that may not even be there
yeah,
anymore.
I mean, he may never even use it.
Yeah, I mean, whatever that person did at their last fight is hopefully they've been training and making their adjustments, and they're, you know, not going to do the same thing. I mean, unless they're a really seasoned fighter, but I don't think you really have to worry about that till you start to get into like pros where they're like they fight all the time. You know what I mean? And they're
So you're not like really in the present of that fight. You're too much in your head thinking about what he could do instead of focusing on what you're doing.
Yeah,
Right,
like
exactly,
in
yeah.
college, I mean, you just know they're going to be good anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of like, well, let's get in the middle of it. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
That's so true. Man, yeah, everybody has a plan till you get in that cage. It's crazy. Like I would say I was least so not nervous about that fight, which was so weird to me that I was not even nervous or like scared or anxious or anything. There was little moments, but like overall, for going to do something like that, like
You weren't all adrenaline and
no. But when we got in the ring and they're like, you know, you're standing next to the thing and they're putting the Vaseline on your things, and I'm like, and then I'm starting to go, holy shit, dude,
this
like,
is real.
This is real.
then they go, you get in there and they introduce you, and you're just awkward as heck because you don't know how to act. You're sitting in the cage and there's people all around you. And then, this person leaves and the cameraman leaves, and then there's you and the guy that wants to punch you in the face, and then, the ref, and you hear the door, like the most, like, I just still remember that sound of like the door closing and that little pin
Clink.
dropping clink, and I was like, oh boy.
Here we go. Heart rate shoots up.
Yeah. But everything I thought I knew, it wasn't even getting punched in the face. Everything that I trained and I was planning to do, I did none of it. Like I was just like, completely, like everything was gone. Everything was gone. Like, and like as somebody was telling me before, and they're like, yeah, something really weird happens. Sometimes your legs go weak, and because like you're in there, and sure enough, my legs are just like sitting in one place. I'm like, had to forcibly
Almost like that
tell
stage fright.
Yeah, to the point where I was like, you need to throw something, because I kind of felt the other guy was like that, and it was just like something has to happen, and everybody stand off, and it's just that moment of like, like go for it, and then it's just on, and then before you know it, it's like, oh, it's over. You're like, okay.
Wow,
Really
I
strange.
can't even imagine. But what I am thinking about that is what a confidence booster. When, like in business, I've never done anything like that, but I'm relating that. I'm thinking in my head about the, the struggles we go through in business or in life. You have so many people are afraid of a failure and a public failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that has got to be that is right there. Everybody's going to witness either a triumph or a failure right here,
Ego.
right now.
Yep.
Like in business, we're going to try something. So sometimes we try things and they don't work out.
Right.
It's a very public failure,
Right.
or
It is,
or
yeah.
whatever. But that in that moment,
Yeah.
everybody's going to see triumph, and I'm not trying to mean like, somebody fails just because they lost. I'm saying though that if your mind isn't in the right place, you can beat yourself up like that. But I'm saying there are things to be learned. There's whatever, but it's going to be a very public thing. Like you're going to have to deal and be strong-minded to be okay with
Right.
whatever happens here. Like
Yeah, you
So
got.
you have a very healthy
I'm
ego.
okay.
Oh,
you're,
yeah, I
You're
mean,
not. You have a very
honestly,
healthy ego.
there was nothing about it that I was like, oh, usually you get that like hindsight, like, oh, I should have. I was just like, I just felt good that I was able to go in there, and it felt good that I didn't get obviously plowed, beat up. Like if I would have got knocked out in the first round, and maybe it would have felt different. But like for me personally to have gone through that and like make it to the end and come out on kind of unscathed, I lost, but.
But still,
It was like I was so proud of myself,
Hey,
man.
man,
I
2
was,
months. You trained for 2 months. Haven't been in a ring for 20 years. And how old was the?
I think he was like 29 in the U.S. Yeah,
There
so
you go.
like, for me, I was like,
That's a win.
and a lot of people were really. I never have received that much love for losing. I never really received that much love from people, from even a lot of haters that have hated on me, that came up and shook my hand and was like, man, that's awesome that you did that.
because that's scary, man.
It is scary. We've got a
That's
couple
not
other
an easy
fighters.
thing to go do.
Yeah, it is. And there's a few people that I trained with that, have trained for a long time and haven't gone in the cage, and now they're like, you inspired me, man. I'm going to go do this, and they're going to fight now, you know what I mean? And it's just, those are the wins for me, you know what I mean? Like those things.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with just being willing to jump in, right?
Right.
I mean, go take a punch.
Yeah.
And see what. But it's interesting to me that there's people that have trained with it, but yet they can't get themselves to go do it.
I think that it is that same fear of getting hit, or what if I get beat up or this or that, I think it holds a lot of people back.
All right, quick second here. If you find that the Big Fat Podcast is bringing you some type of value, please consider subscribing. And if you hit that little bell, it will give you a notification each time we upload a new episode. If you have a moment, maybe even leave us a review on whatever platform you're using. These little things help keep us going and help spread the word of the BFP. All right, let's get back into this.
I mean, it is a scary thing, but at the same time, it's one of those things, you just look at the worst thing that can happen. Like, I might just get punched in the face. Like, am I okay getting punched in the face by in front of 2,000 people? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. I mean, it's a little part of it's intriguing to me. Like, what would it feel like? I've never been, knocked out or anything like that, or had my butt kicked really bad. So there's a little weird, like, sadistic part of me.
Yeah,
like what would happen?
What would that be like? I mean,
Yeah. What did you do afterwards? Like, did you just go home? Did you go out to dinner? What did you do afterwards?
You're usually pretty stoked, right? You want to.
Yeah, I hung out and watched the rest of the fights. There was really great fights that night. After that, it was kind of mandatory. All the fighters go to Peppers, and some people, the pros, are picking up their checks, and everybody's just mixing and mingling. And I got to hang out with the kid that I fought with and just have a normal conversation.
That's
and
wild.
Take some pictures, and it was cool. It was just like, hey, buddy, and
I'd have been munching on Tylenol all night.
Yeah. No, I actually felt pretty good. I had a few bruises on my legs, and was a little sore. But also kind of happy because I was abstinent of everything during that time. Yeah. So I got to have a whiskey, and you know what I mean, had a burger, and kind of did a few of those things. Was because I didn't.
Because you earned it.
Yeah, you were doing being clean.
Yeah. So yeah. But it's easy to fall off, and that was kind of the thing about this next fight. They're like, "Well, you want to do it again?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I'm like, part of me doesn't want to in a way because I'm super busy, and I'm making time for this.
Yeah, I can't imagine, man. I can't figure out how to work out in my own little shop here, man. And I'm like, how's he
And you're
doing
training
this?
for a fight.
If someone's going to punch you in the face in 2 months, I think you might be a little bit more motivated.
That's true.
That's
is
what
a
it
huge
is.
motivation.
It's either that or right now I'll just say, hey, I'm not going to do it, and I keep going back and forth to it.
But that's a big thing too, to be like, oh, no, and then back out of it. You don't want to do that either.
No,
so
because I know if I back out of it, my diet will go back to whatever. So for me, I'm scared to not do it. Put it that way. I'm scared to not do it and what I might become if I don't push myself, because it's one of the things that's driving me the most right now. And it's not about money or any of that other stuff, but it's making all the rest of the stuff around me better. In a weird way, even though I'm putting more time in to go do that, and it's taking time from other things, those other things are more intentional, and I'm getting more done in those times.
Complete accountability.
Yeah. Maybe that discipline in that area brings discipline. I'm trying to just figure it out, but that discipline helps to bring discipline in all your other areas. They all lift.
It does, and it's hard to not feel good when you just how good it feels to work out when you finally do, those days where you're like, okay, I'm just going to go, and you come back from the gym and like, I'm so glad I did that. And then you feel like eating better. You feel like, being more just
Most people hate the first 30 minutes of working out. It isn't until after that 30 minutes that people are like, oh, I finally feel good.
I mean, I got to work out today, and I'm just like, I just think about the being tired and oh my god, and it kind of makes you not want to go, but that's that fear barrier, like you were saying before, that uncomfortability to just be like, nope, I'm gonna go do it. And every time I do it, I'm just that much better. Feel that much better about it. I'm like, thank God. It still seems to have that same feeling, that feeling doesn't go away, but I almost feel like that's an indicator or something.
You never, after you get done doing something that you force yourself to do, you're never disappointed you did it.
Right.
You're always happy you did it. So
well, one thing to me that sounds attractive about it is that focus of not worrying about a bunch of other things. That part,
the meditation, almost the meditation.
Yeah, to be like, okay, this is my focus. If that would almost be nice. I look at sometimes, I look at some of these fighters and everything. I'm like, what if your life was just training for the next fight? That's all you had to worry about was you eat right, train right, somebody's helping you with that. And to not have to worry about a lot of things that we all worry, the things that break at the trailer, and I got to fix this, but we also got to come up with a special. We got to do social media marketing, and we got to do this. We got to do this and this and this. Yeah. But to be like, okay, I get up, and this guy tells me how many reps to do with this.
What I'm going to eat for the day.
That sounds real attractive. I might take a hit in the face or two, just to have that.
So I'm going to ask this question. So I want my kids. So I have two of my younger two. Well, all three of them have vision problems, but my younger two are low vision. And so I've got them into. Well, I wrestled all the time, so they were into wrestling and karate and stuff. And my oldest graduates this year, but my second one said, "Dad," at the end of wrestling season this year, he goes, "Dad, I don't want to wrestle next year, And so you could tell that it was hard for him to want to even approach me on it. And I was like, you don't want to make the decision now anyway, but that's not why I wanted you to do it, because he's 16 on it. For me, it was about confidence, self-confidence, being able to stand up for, you know what I mean? And so all of those things, learning how to win, and I was explaining that to him. I'm like, guys, it's about learning how to win graciously and lose graciously in defeat, right? Yeah. It's about being able to stand up for yourself. It's about being able to, somebody's picking on you to say, hey, it's okay. If you think you can beat me, the only thing I'm going to make you one promise on, right, is that it's going to hurt. Because nobody wants to go through pain.
Right.
I don't care if you lose.
Right.
I just don't want you giving up.
Right.
And so those are the qualities, right, that you want, so that they take those to life with them as they leave. And so it's been interesting watching them kind of like sit back and go, okay, and try to figure out what it is that we want in it. And so I think that fighting does give you a little bit of incentive towards being better at life, because that nothing comes without effort, right? And confidence is just means that you're with faith, right? You have more faith and more confidence in yourself and being able to do something with it. So I think that's awesome.
a good point. Yeah,
with what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm. Man, I want to come watch. I want to learn life lessons like from the outside, like.
You don't want to get in the ring and listen to that peen drop.
Oh man, I'm sitting here trying to figure out. Like I've been sitting here trying to picture it. I'm like, man, can I do something like that, man? I'm telling you, I don't know
just
that
could
do
never
it.
like those women that do the MMA. I'm not about pain at all, and like to willingly have somebody go in and hit me, I'm not doing it, and that's just my gig. I'm just not doing it. Just nothing in me is like.
I definitely see all the benefits of it. Don't get me wrong, and I know what you're talking about, and there's so many good benefits from that.
Like
I think
my
for
son,
people.
after a wrestling tournament, they have to go and they have to shake hands and they have to do that. Now you see some kids that'll throw their fit and they do their stuff, but those kids that actually lose get their bums kicked and have to go shake that hand and go shake the coach's hand and.
There's times, right, that they're going to go out there and it's over in 30 seconds. I mean, that's hard. Like, it takes a humbling, right?
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to be like,
I just practiced for 2 weeks.
I got
out
working my
in
butt
30
off.
seconds.
And but you know what? There's a lesson learned. There's like, well, don't freaking charge them,
Yeah.
And so I think that there is, to me, right? I don't want to get punched, but I'll tell you what, the first time it wakes me up, the second time pisses me off. So. It's one of those things where it does, right? Like the first time you're like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And the second time you're like, okay,
you're going to be a little more diligent.
I think I'd rather be choked out than knocked out.
Yeah, I agree. Easily.
Yeah. The guy, I am curious.
You only feel the first few anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
The guy who was talking smack and then ended up backing out of this fight. Did he continue to talk smack after that?
Absolutely. He did.
How?
I don't know.
I
don't know. I'm like, what? Whoa, here's the crazy part.
This sounds
the
like
day he backed out.
7th grade.
It does.
It does. It sounds like middle school.
It is.
It is.
It's cool. And there's a lot of stuff, with this guy that his own personal stuff that has a lot to do with it. Won't get into that, but
is he getting his value out of just having that interaction with you, just getting your attention? Is he that kind of? Is it that kind of a thing where he?
I think it's possibly a jealousy thing mixed with, hard
feelings,
and then competitive, like trying to be like, just trying to compete, and it's like I'm not even. It's like you're sitting at a stoplight and this guy next to you is racing you and you're just kind of like, and they're all over the place and then they crash into a pole and you're just still like, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, like the whole thing was built up in their own head.
There's a weird like little baby inside of this big mask of a body, and that I found out because I called his bluff. I still welcome him. I'm like, come on in, man. If now I see him talking smack. I don't even gonna waste my time. I'm not even gonna waste my breath. But like it was like 2 days after he. Remember the last thing he said to me was, when I see you, don't even say hi. Like, I'm just going to knock you out. And then 2 days later, I'm sitting at the High Horse having breakfast by myself, and here comes this guy with his entourage, and he's across the bar and looks at me and goes, "Hey, Harvey."
Yeah.
Like, it was Dubs, and I'm like, "Hey, Harvey?" And I just kind of looked at him, and then I was kind of like baffled by it, and I just went back to eating, and he went back to his thing, and every once in a while there'd be a glance, and
he keyboard warrior?
Buys my breakfast and just walks out.
Oh my gosh, there's some weird mental thing going on there. So that guy almost probably goes home and then hates himself and looks at himself in the mirror and he's like, you know what?
He's so worried about everybody else instead of himself.
I'm a little, I could keep going, but you know what I mean? Like he's probably at home beating himself up for not
And I've spared him. Like I could have like on the fight, and like really there was a lot of people that wanted me to like call him out because he was probably there. I didn't see him, but they're saying he probably was there, but I was like, no, I don't. I don't want to
awesome
turn
that you didn't.
Like into
I'm
that.
telling you, that's how the people like that, I think, feed off of that attention from you.
Oh, yeah.
Just don't
He
give
would
it
have
to
actually
him.
liked that.
That he was on your mind
Yeah.
would have been like
Yeah.
a thing for him. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Take the high road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a
That's
big
awesome.
believer in that, man. I don't even give people attention.
Well, and what it did is, and I love this, you made the comment that it doesn't even bug you anymore.
Yeah, I'm just like, whatever, because I did my part on that in the situation. I'm like, there's nothing else I could do except get mad about it, and I already know what it is now. I've got to see what it actually was in its reality. So then it kind of, I kind of feel a little sorry for the guy in a way, you know what I mean? And I'm like, dude, I could be really valuable to you, and I tried to help this guy early on, and it's like,
And he pushed you to do something you hadn't done in 20 years, and now look.
I know. Look at the positive that came out of that.
No,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah, I would have never done that.
Started a whole new career. You didn't even know it.
Yeah, it's so weird. So weird.
Yeah, I can't imagine being 9 years old and being ringside at this thing and
He was
seeing my dad
right next to the cage.
Yeah.
Like right here next to the cage. And, it was really... You go ahead. Yeah, it was a little weird. He teared up a little bit, and I was like, "It's cool, man. It's all right." I think he felt bad that Dad lost or something, around like. And there was a lot of people that were just like thought I won, because it was like one of the judges scored me as the winner, and then the other two scored him. So it was a split decision. The judges didn't all agree. So like we had a little talk about that. He was a little kind of it was really weird. It was really odd for him. But I think really good for him because he kind of has been going to the grindhouse a little bit, and as soon as I fought, he's been going more and harder. So like he does my whole routine with me now. So, this is he's almost 9, and this kid works out more than most people I know. He's 4 hours, usually about 3 to 4 hours a day.
Oh my
So he
dear.
boxes at 6:30 in the morning with me. Then he goes to CrossFit with me at Yellowstone CrossFit from 3 to 4. Then he goes to jiu-jitsu or boxing, whatever day it is, at the grindhouse from 4 to 5. And then I train from 5 to 6 and 6 to 7. And he does that with me as well. So like he's just there.
I'm tired just listening.
I know. I'm like, oh,
But it's weird.
man.
Like he just goes through it and he does
crazy.
it all, and then
I'm
everybody's
not going to complain
encouraging
about
him.
cutting potatoes.
He's encouraged by everybody that's doing it, and like he sees it in himself that he's developing, and like even like his boxing classes, like now he's like getting better at everything. But it's just like, your kids want to do what you're doing, So I think it really inspired him to kind of like take it, see it a different side of it, like the real side of it, and it's kind of boosted his.
He's going to have so much confidence as he's growing up, though.
man.
Like
a ton,
so
yeah.
much confidence
Yeah,
to
it's
deal with
huge.
all kinds of things.
Oh yeah.
So do you ever get to the point like, man, this is just a weird. Like I know, just from the background, right, that if I get in a fight, like a street fight, they're going to either pull me off of him.
Right.
I mean, like most of it's because I know that my size, right? I'm not, they're not going to look at me. If you and I were to get in a fight and something
Right.
happens to you, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, he was picking on you. you know?
Right.
And so I know that if I'm going to fight you, right, somebody's pulling me off. Like I know that I'm going to jail, and my intent is to put you in the hospital.
Right.
Like that. I mean, that's my mindset if I'm going to get to that level. Do you ever feel that way when you're?
No, there's no like anger or like everybody was trying to tell me to like build up my rage a little bit and like, hey, this guy, you got to go in there and you got to be like, this guy's gonna try to kick me, like really you have to, because with the other guy I didn't have to do it. I was like, I'm ready to go, and this guy's bigger than me. I was ready to go, so it was different. It was more of like, I'm not gonna let you pick on me, or like I'll step up to the cage. I don't care if you knock me out or whatever in the cage. I really don't, but I'm gonna go in there with you. You know what I mean? So it was really more of that than like an angry I guess hurting him and putting him in the hospital or something like that wasn't as powerful in my mind as much as just stepping in there with him and going, see,
Getting in there, yeah.
go ahead. You know what I mean? Like, do it. And yeah, so it's a little weird. And it was kind of even harder when I had to fight this other kid because I was just not mad at him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
don't
mad
know
at
him
this
from
guy.
Adam,
I know
right?
him, yeah.
So what's your mindset going into the second fight? Like this one, you're a month out. Actually, it's 5 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So what's your mindset going into it?
It's a little different. I mean, I think I'm a little more I'm a little more worried about it a little bit, I guess, from the standpoint of I know what to expect, but I'm also less worried about it because I know what to expect. So like I think being in the cage is going to be very valuable that I got to do in there, because when I trained, I didn't get to train in the cage. I got to train on mats, and I wasn't prepared to be held in the corner on the ground by a cage and didn't know. So there was little things like that, little nuances, but for this one, it's a little more like I'm just I'm a little more driven for it, still not mad at, or like having that aggressive feeling, but I want to do better. I want my cardio to better. 3 rounds. I do. When you're training, you're doing all kinds of exercises, 3-minute rounds, or back to back to back to back, like over and over. But then when you get in the ring and the adrenaline's rolling and everything like that, like you just become gassed. So like I'm more just like be prepared. You know what I mean? Like be prepared to be. Just that bring that cardio up and my diet and all these other things. I'm just like, I want to go in there better. You know what I mean?
So do you practice like your breathing techniques?
I do Wim Hof every once in a while, like Wim Hof breathing techniques.
Who's Wim Hof?
I don't know too much about the guy. One of my brother.
Is he the guy who does a lot of stuff in like really like frozen water, like
yes.
ice?
Ice
water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's about controlling, because you got to be able to control. Like what he's talking about is once you get in, just the excitement and the energy that's in the room.
Yes.
Drains you.
You're already breathing hard when you started. You're like,
so
yeah,
boy.
And then you're getting worked up before you get in the ring. So there's lots of times where somebody will, before they even get out there, they're already exhausted, and you can tell when you're out there with them.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you said that name, because I have been wanting to read more about this guy.
We do it every once. So I think there's multiple techniques, but there's one specifically, one that I do from time to time, and it's especially when I'm anxious. It just works amazingly and just puts you in this whole different like trance. It's really weird, and we did that a couple hours before the fights, and from the moment I did that breathing, to when I actually was getting my hands wrapped, like I didn't say a word. I was just like, I wasn't even there. It was so weird. Like after that breathing thing, that like just became at this really peaceful place, and I was just there the whole time until it came out to get in there, and then it was starting to come, when it's walking out and all that stuff. I was like, okay. And you start to kind of feel it start building up, but it was pretty amazing. Yeah, like those breathing techniques are awesome, and just putting yourself to like, your brain wants to go into, I'm going to do this, or what if he does that, and da 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 da. And at the end of the day, you just have to like turn it all off and just go in there, And I think that'll be the thing that I think it'll be a little trickier this time around, because I am thinking about it more. Or than I did last time, so there's a little bit of nervousness, and I don't want to lose again. Really, I don't want to go out of the first round. Honestly, that's my goal, is to go in there and get it done quick so that I can get out of there.
Yeah,
you want to knock him out.
I'm just thinking, man, another 3 rounds. If I can avoid that, then
How long? Now the rounds are how long?
3-minute rounds.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, that was a long 3 minutes.
That sounds like forever.
That's a 10 minute. That's a 10
when
minutes.
they click that thing and you got 10 seconds left, it's like, come on, and like you're trying to, get yourself, I guess, the last 30 seconds, that last minute are the most important.
But they kill the last 30 seconds is like freaking.
Oh my God!
When you're the one out there, it seems like it takes 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
Man, that's intense, man.
We used to in college have. It's really, we did it for fun, but it was like fight nights. You like have your little fight club, and you'd go out and you just like 2 guys would show up and you just go at it.
I love it.
I recently bought a tennis ball machine this year, so
Get rid of the
that's where I'm at.
Like Happy Gilmore, or what was it?
Yeah. Maybe I'll stand in front of it and take a few hits
with the hockey puck.
Yeah. That's my challenge, is to go out and
I can just see
tennis ball machine.
Is it downstairs in your house?
No, it's right over here. I drag it over to the courts.
I can see you setting it up and then standing there going, man, this is gonna hurt.
365 more days till hockey season. Got to toughen up. Yeah. No. That's my meditation. April comes over there and scrolls her phone while I sit there and run back and forth and hit tennis balls. But I just think about how sore I am after that.
It's good exercise, yeah.
I'm just sore after that, man. I'm feeling it lately. I got to I don't know. I got to do something manly.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't.
You can still come
I'm
train.
45
You don't have to fight.
and I have no desire to want to go into the ring. Like,
If
doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun to me.
But I'm like this though. Like if you're gonna go train, like you might as well get in there on some level. You know, I would be that guy.
Yeah.
I would be like, you know what? I have to.
Yeah.
I have to get in the ring. I'm that guy. Like I would feel obligated.
Right.
So.
But it doesn't have to be a fight. It could be skiing. I mean, you can pick anything, right?
Yeah.
It could be, you're going to do a 20 yards or 20 miles on a bike or something.
Hey man,
You can
That's how I
find
like
other
it, too,
things.
doing different things because the gym, I mean, training for a fight, yes, I can focus and I can repeat and do things like that. But when I'm not fighting, I do go to the gym, but I want to do other things. Like we go camping a lot, like we do crazy hikes and. Those kinds of things. Go riding dirt bikes, motocrosses,
Just
really
a healthy
crazy
lifestyle.
Yeah,
and
it is.
doing different stuff and being able to not, I'm just restless soul, man. I just always want to be doing something. I want to try something else. I want to go do this, so to incorporate those two together and always just, especially with him because he just soaks everything up with Taj. Like I go do something, he wants to do it, and he does really well at a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? He's grown up kind of around a lot of different things and a lot of adults and stuff like that. So he's just very savvy, and it's I guess it kind of just like feeds that energy back and forth. It makes me want to not. Because if it was just me, who knows what I'd be doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I probably would just sit at home all day.
Yeah.
I'd go to work and I can't do that. You know what I mean? I can't.
Creates a different
can't
level.
let his life be like mediocre in a way. It's like an adventure. We've already been through so much crap that I'm just like, let's go. The coolest things. This kid's life is
You only have one life.
ridiculous. Yeah, it was my brothers always call him Prince Taj because he doesn't know what he really knows. You know what I mean?
He doesn't know what he has until he gets older.
And he can go run off and play with kids, but then he's also can sit here and talk with us, and have conversations. Like he was at, the dinners that we were doing. I bought him a magic kit, and he's just doing magic. He'd walk up to random people to their table and say, "You want to see a magic trick?" And then he would just go do it. And I'm like, "Who does that?" Like kids don't do it. He got up yesterday with the microphone, and in front of everybody with a microphone and did the trick and brought up a.
Yeah, that's.
It's just so weird, and he doesn't realize that's just naturally born on him because doing our ads, when he was a baby, I was like, "Okay, now run and do this," and it was just all we didn't know what we were doing, and it kind of just turned into something else. I mean, he's gotten opportunities elsewhere too. He through a gal in Billings that was actually she was trying to get me. I actually do music a lot too, and I was singing a lot of country music at the time, so she was trying to get me to go to this thing called IMTA to she wanted me to go try to get into music, and I was just so busy and didn't want to do it. I'm like, why don't we take Taj? Because he's already been in these commercials. So we took him to this thing in L.A., and he got picked up by all these agents and stuff. And, he has an actual agent and manager and everything in California that, got him into this, that movie Soul. It's a little kids Pixar movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he, it landed some little, just a weird part. We went in there for 45 minutes. He said a couple lines and then he was in the movie and is getting residual checks and stuff like that. And I'm like,
wow.
Do you understand, kid? It doesn't get it. And that's why I feel I can't really. He will understand it later.
Yeah.
But
you can't expect him to at this age.
Yeah,
They're not gonna get it.
It's not normal. He can't really even talk to other kids about it because it doesn't make sense in a way. It's just too okay, whatever. But it's kind of goes back to that same thing, even with our training and stuff like that. Okay, so because I'm pulling him along and going through all these different things and doing this, and he goes on estimates with me and he helps him bust tables at the restaurant, do all this stuff. He's just doing it, but that'll be normal to him. You know what I mean?
When he gets a little bit
older. So he's not gonna be like, this is normal. This isn't weird. You know what I mean? It's almost, they'll do as much as you allow them to do. And the more I put out in front of him, it's not like he's at the end of the day going, "Oh my gosh, Dad." He's like, "Now, what are we gonna do now?" And it's I have to try to match his energy, but it's just normal to him.
He's not going to have all those roadblocks too of not knowing or not being exposed to all that stuff. So when he does get older and decides what he likes and wants to do, he'll have all that, and he won't have those roadblocks stopping him. So that is super awesome.
Cool.
And he doesn't know
and
it yet,
see,
but he
his
will.
dad do stuff like your dad. scared about stuff too. There's things I do, but I'm vocal about it because I'm like, I'm gonna do it anyways. I'm gonna go do it. And I
that
think
shows him perseverance.
Perseverance. Go get it. You can do anything you want. Just go get it. You got to just decide. And once it's in your mind and you've decided, and then it's all up to you to keep that. And as soon as you let it go, it's gone.
Yeah.
So.
One lucky little boy over there.
He is a lucky little boy.
Getting lots of big experiences. Like I said, that confidence game is going to be huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to set them up, so that and not with money, you know what I mean? Like with experience and knowledge.
Skills and experience.
The money can come and go, but those you can't lose. You can't. There's nothing you can't match that. The experience that comes with all of this stuff, and so it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. Hey, man, I feel like I have I could just keep going with this. I have a lot more questions here for you. So I feel like. Though, hey, we'll do this another time, man.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I feel like, man, you just have a lot of things going on. I'm impressed. I think it's I learned a lot. I'm sitting here just I've kind of been in my own head here as I'm listening to all these things you're doing, and it's kind of inspiring me to be like, man, you gotta,
break out of that every day, and you get bogged down in the everyday. That is the thing.
Every day becomes tiring. I think
it does.
It does. I'm not good with that either. I'm not good with there's a lot of other things that I would rather do than roofing, and you know what I mean. The restaurant obviously is more of a passion, you know what I mean. So
but the roofing was a gateway.
Yes,
it's such a gateway.
It is, So it's hard for me to look at that and go, and just kind of brush it to the side. It's like no, and it's done so many things for so many other people too, other than us, that I'm like. That's what it is. But the monotony of it does tire you down, and you're like, what am I doing? I don't want to do it. And then it really takes remembering, what he's learned from it, and all the other things that we were able to do that make you go, okay,
the things you've got to be able, or you've been able to do because
the things that are
of that.
tied to it.
Yes,
they're
exactly.
like, okay, those things make this what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that is pretty impressive, man. I appreciate you guys coming out here and taking the time to talk with us, man. I appreciate
you guys having us, man.
We've been looking into everything that you're involved with, and I'm like, this guy, I just want to see what makes him tick, and so I appreciate you sharing all that with us. I'm going to look at that date. We're going to come out there and...
Yeah, I threw it in my phone, April 9th.
Yeah, we'll likely have a couple of tables, so come join us. Come sit at the table. Yeah. You guys can sit up front with us and Taj, and we would love to have you guys there.
Yeah. Is there somewhere online we get tickets, or how do we go about that?
Let me find out. I'll ask my guy about them. But normally you can just go to the Metro or online a Metro and get them that way. Or I think Fusion Fight League probably has them through their site too, or Facebook. But let me look into it before you do that, so that because tables, I think they sell tables for somewhere. I want to say they're $600 to $800 or something like that. And it's usually 8 to 10 people at a table. So, if you want to support them, totally get a table. Otherwise, if you guys want to come swing out with us, it'd be great to have you guys come sit with us and hang out.
Thank you.
Hey, man, we just want to come see, just be a part of this experience, man.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Good luck.
Yeah,
Awesome.
for sure,
you,
man.
That's cool.
And Mr. Taj, it's wonderful meeting you. You are going to be a somebody. I can see that, man. You don't have very much fear, man. That's awesome. All right. Hey, thanks, guys. We'll wrap this one up.
Thank you, guys.
We'll do this another time, my man.
Love to. Appreciate you guys. Thank you again.
Thank you.